Hello classroom management students. In this video we're going to learn how to create questions in a question bank. By putting questions in the question bank we can later create quizzes to give our students. And the nice thing about doing this in Moodle is that when students take a quiz on Moodle, it will grade your quiz for you, even give you all kinds of item analysis and so forth. So you won't have to grade a single paper if you learn how to put questions in the question bank and then create quizzes in Moodle. In this first video, we're going to learn how to add questions to the question bank. And to do so, the first thing I have to do is to make sure I can see settings on the navigation bar here. And I don't see the word settings anywhere. And turns out for me, my settings have gotten moved up here into what's called the dock. And if I move my mouse up there, it shows me the items of settings. Or if I click on the little white flag below it, it will put the settings back in the navigation toolbar, which is where I want them. So whether you have to do the object that I just now did of moving the settings to the navigation bar or not, you definitely need to have the word settings here so that we can then click on question bank to begin entering questions. Now I don't have any questions in my question bank, so the first thing I get is this option of what category I want to put them in, and I'm going to put them all into this default category. We can learn to edit that at a later point. So I'm going to click to create a new question. Notice when I do, I have a whole bunch of choices here. In this video today, we're going to stick to multiple choice and true false, which will probably be the kinds of questions that you give your students most often. So let's pick multiple choice, and then I'll click next. Now the thing that you have to get used to on Moodle is that there's always a lot of items on a Moodle screen, and we have to learn which ones must we do and which ones can we just skip. Certainly anything that's in red is required. So the question name. Now I'm going to put the question name here of classroom management theories. I'm going to make up a question as if I were going to give you a quiz in our classroom management class. I'll put the question text here, and I should have question text already copied so I can just paste it in, and sure enough, here's the question we're going to ask our students. Which of the following management theories is most likely to use external reinforcement in order to cause students to behave in a certain manner? Now, I'm going to skip the feedback box, and I'm only going to have one correct answer to this. Obviously, I could have multiple correct answers, but I don't want that. I want a single correct answer. The box called Shuffle the Choices. That means that if two students are sitting side by side on computers, their answers will be shuffled, so that if one student decides just to copy off the student next to him and answers B the same way that the first student has answered B, it's very likely one student will get the question right, one will get it wrong, because the answers are going to be shuffled. So I'm going to leave that option. I like that option to hopefully cut down on cheating. Okay, choice 1 is where we put our answers. So this is the answer to the question, incidentally. It's behaviorism. That's the right answer. And I want to make sure that if they answer behaviorism, they get 100% on this item. I'll leave the feedback box vacant for the time being. Now I'll go to choice 2. Maybe choice theory is another answer that I want to put on my multiple choice. That's not the right answer, so I'm going to leave its grade as none. I want students to get no credit for having answered choice theory. I'll leave the feedback blank. For the third answer, how about if we put something like student-directed learning? That happened to be one of the theories that we studied, and again, grade none. And for option 4, I think I'll put the Gordon model down. That's one of the theories that we heard about in class, but it's not the correct answer to this question. So now I have my correct answers listed and the incorrect answers also listed. I'm not going to have a choice 5. I'm going to skip all this stuff on combined feedback. Penalty for each incorrect try. Actually, I'm not going to let them try this thing multiple times. So I may want to change this to 100%. So if they don't get it right, they get no credit. It turns out on the quiz, we can choose whether we let students have multiple tries at the quiz. And in my case, the answer is going to be no. They get one try at it, and that's it. I'm not going to give them any hints. I'm skipping all that stuff, and I'll save changes. Okay, I've got my first question now added to the question bank. Now I want to create another question. Let's make this one a true-false question. Okay, so I'll click true-false. I'll go to next. Again, we have to give a question name here, so the questions will show up in a list. So I'm going to call this question Flipped Classroom and make up a question about Flipped Classroom. Now remember, this is a true-false question, so I'm simply going to put a sentence in that's either true or false. And I'm going to say the flipped classroom is a classroom in which the teacher has directed students to flip their seats around backwards so they now face the outside walls instead of the teacher. Now, if you remember our discussion about a flipped classroom, that's a ridiculous sentence. The flipped classroom refers to having instruction provided at home through the internet so that when students come to school, they work their problems in school, as opposed to the traditional way in which information is presented at school when students work problems at home. So this is obviously a false, true-false question, and sure enough, the correct answer is defaulted to the word false. I'm not going to give feedback here, and so I'm going to skip all the feedback stuff and say save my changes. At this point, we have two questions in our question bank. Notice I have some options here. Certainly I could click on the pencil and edit any of these questions if I wanted to. If I click on the magnifying glass, I can preview them. Let's do that. Let's preview this management theory question. And in blue here, I see the question. I'm happy with what I see. This is the kind of question I wanted to ask, so I'll simply close the window. And let's preview the true-false question as well. And sure enough, it's got a true-false option for students when they read the question. Let's close that window out. I can move questions around. That's what the black up and down arrows mean. But I want to warn you that we're not constructing a quiz at this point. We're simply putting questions in the question bank. Later on, we'll construct a quiz. That'll be in the next instructional video that we have. For now, we're simply putting questions in the question bank. When we're finally done with questions in our question bank, we can click back on one of the other options to Moodle and continue with our Moodle work. And I'll continue video-wise with the next video for you, which will be about constructing quizzes using questions in the question bank. See you then.